Hey everyone, in today's video, we're gonna take a look at this 52 volt, 20 amp hour fat tire electric bike. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, JT from Ebike Escape here. And before we take a closer look at the Magicycle Deer we have here behind me, I just want to ask everyone a couple quick favors. If you are looking to purchase a Magicycle e-bike or really any e-bike, please consider using the links down in the description. All purchases made after clicking those links help directly support us here at Ebike Escape. Also linked down in the description, we'll have some helpful resources, our e-bike accessories list, top e-bikes brands page, and our e-bikes discounts codes page, as well as our newly opened Ebike Escape store, where we started to collect some high quality accessories that we recommend and use here almost daily at Ebike Escape. All right, so before we take a close-up look at all the components of this bike, then we're going to take this to our neighborhood where we can pedal it around, show you the pedal assist levels and the gears, as well as we are going to take it up a hill climb test and show you what this 52 volt 20 amp hour battery is capable of. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the specifics or some of the options that you have if you're searching for a Magicycle Deer. Starting out, price. The Deer comes in at $24.99. There is one variation that comes in at about $50 less. We'll talk about that when we get to there. It's a high step bike. So the Deer has two wheel size options, the 20 inches you see here, as well as a 26 wheel option for the step-through frame. Now, the nice thing about the 20-inch wheels allows for a wider range of riders. So the step-through with the 20-inch wheels like you see here has a listed height range of 4'10" all the way up to 6'2". There's quite a bit of seat post room there, so you can definitely get up to that height and drop it down for shorter riders. Now, the step-through and the high step with the 26-inch optional wheels have these same height ranges, which are 5'5" riders up to 6'8". There are some color options available. The color you see here in front of you is a space gray, which is kind of like a matte gray with some black accents. The other options that the 20-inch step-through is offered in are gonna be a dawn yellow and a pearl white. That pearl white is gonna be exclusive to the 20-inch wheel step-through frame. If you go with the non-step through or the high step, your color options are going to be that same dawn yellow and space gray like you see here, but as well as a neon green, which is a really bright, almost radioactive green, which I wish the 20-inch wheel was available in. Now, the only other option you're going to find is if you're looking at the high step model, it's going to be one of the bikes that's listed for $24.49. And what that bike is listed as the off-road bike. And that comes without the rear rack or fenders like you see here, but it does come with 26-inch wheels as the standard. They do not have a 20-inch wheel option. But for $50, you're not gonna be able to purchase the rack or fender. So we recommend if you're looking for an off-road versus a touring that these are listed as, just go ahead and get the touring model and then take the rack and fenders off. That additional $50 savings is not worth it, especially for the initial purchase. This is not the first Magicycle bike we have tried out. We rode the Cruiser and Cruiser Pro before, and we were pretty impressed by the 52 volt system on these bikes. So I'm really excited to put the 52 volt system on this bike to the test on our hills, especially considering that it has a little bit larger of a battery than what we've seen on some other Magicycle bikes. But that's getting a little bit ahead of myself. So let's start up here in the front. Starting over here, on the passenger side, you'll notice that we do have a quick release. So if you wanted to transport this bike, it would be very easy for you to take the front wheel off. Or if you get a flat, you'd be able to get this tire off pretty easily, not needing any additional tools. Moving around to the side over here, you'll notice we have a 180 mil front disc brake rotor as well as hydraulic disc brakes. There is no branding down here, but up on the levers, they are listed as Bengal brakes. These are hydraulic disc brakes that we've seen before on some other e-bikes. They're perfectly adequate and they're really gonna help slow this bike down. Wrapping the wheel here, we have this reflective sidewall Kenda Crusader tire. These are listed as 20 by 4-inch tires. We would consider these fat tires. They do have some nice knobby tread on them too. So if you had some crushed gravel paths and things like that, this bike would be more than capable of handling them. Right above the tire, you'll notice that we have a fairly low hanging plastic fender. Nice to see those included. And then working our way up, we do have a hydraulic front fork. And that's not it for suspension. There is a rear shock hidden in the frame back there. We have a fairly nice LED front headlight here. It's gonna be a little difficult to see in the direct sunlight here. Give me a second just to turn it on. There we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. It's a pretty bright light. It's got a nice reflector tucked underneath. But like most of these lights, we recommend a handlebar mounted light for better be-seen visibility, as headlights are great for seeing visibility, but not being seen by other motorists as they are just a stationary light. Working our way up here, you can see some of the cable management. They just have a couple of these little plastic wraps here just to keep the wires nice and tight, and then the wires come down and disappear into the down tube, which is where the battery and controller and everything is going to be housed. We would always like to see maybe a little bit more wrap or maybe some extra zip ties to keep some of this stuff a little bit tidier. And then working our way up to the cockpit, here's a look at the hydraulic disc brake Bengal lever, complete with motor cutoffs. We have a faux leather grip here. This is a non-locking leather grip. We always recommend locking grips as some of these can kind of move around, but they are ergonomic and nice on the palms. Here's the 4-button controls. The power button's tucked on the top. You have an information plus and minus. We'll talk about the display. We're actually gonna have to push this into the shade as this is a color LCD display, and it's a little difficult to see, especially in the direct sunlight. This is our bike case phone mount that we sell on shop.ebikescape.com. This is not included with the bike. I just left it on here as I was doing some riding earlier with it. And then tucked in here nicely is gonna be a bell. This was actually mounted on top, but I slid it down out of the way, but the bell comes pre-installed and included. Moving over to the right side, we have the standard 7-speed Shimano Cis Index, which is over the handle. We always prefer the under thumb, but these are perfectly adequate. Tucked behind the shifter there, you'll see the matching Bengal hydraulic disc brake lever. We have a twist grip throttle here on the right-hand side. One quick note, be careful with the twist grip throttle on this bike, especially as the throttle is available whether you are in 0 or pedal assist level 5, 7, or 9. And then here's the matching ergonomic grip on the right side. All right, let's go ahead and push the bike to the shade where we will talk about that LCD display. All right, now that we are under the shade of this tree here, let's take a look at this beautiful LCD color display. Simply hold the power button on the top here. You get a Magicycle logo on this display, and boom, power's on. Here we go. We have all the information located on a nice screen right in front of you. The downfall to having such beautiful, vibrant colors is going to be that it may be a little bit difficult to see in direct sunlight, just something to be aware of, as well as you are not able to adjust the angle of this as the display is tilted all the way down and is up against the stem cap here, so there is not any adjustment. This is the angle the display is kind of stuck at. The buttons over here, as I kind of said before, you have a plus, minus on the bottom and information in the center, and then tucked up here on the top, you have a power button. If you hold the plus button, the display will dim, and then at the top here, you will notice this little headlight comes on. That tells you that the headlights are on. Headlight and tail light, for that matter, are on. To turn that off, you simply hold for about 2 to 3 seconds. It'll turn off. And if you hold the down button, a person walking a bike will show up and the bike will start to take off at a very slow pace. It's meant to kind of help you, say, push it up a steep driveway or a hill or anything like that. Now let's get in a little closer and look at everything that's on the display. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, you notice we have a battery bar, which complete with percentage. In the right side, we have a time display. This little dial up here is the watts that the bike is currently outputting, so you can keep an eye on how many watts you're actively using. Then we have the speed, is what this numbers that are here are going to be. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you notice we have a trip meter that is in miles, and on the right-hand side, you have what pedal assist level you are in. Now, the Magicycle Deer does come with 7 levels of pedal assist, which is about 2 more than we normally see, but that is adjustable within the advanced settings. And you cycle through those by pushing the plus and minus button. If you push the information button, if you watch the trip odometer in the bottom left, it'll change to odometer, max speed, average speed, time that the bike has currently been on, and then back to trip. To get into the advanced settings on this display, you'll simply push the plus and minus button at the same time. The display will change, and you get this nice, easy to navigate menu. So starting out, we have wheel size. You can change the wheel size. We're gonna go ahead and leave this where it's set. And then next to wheel, you'll notice here we have speed limit, which is what I imagine most people wanna get into the advanced settings and change. The Deer does come shipped as a Class 2 e-bike, which means that it is limited to 20 miles per hour, whether you are pedaling or on throttle alone. We're gonna go ahead and turn this all the way up, and you'll notice it goes up to 28 before it jumps down to 8 miles an hour, which is the slowest speed you can set. As what we like to do is show you what these bikes are truly capable of, but we ride very responsibly, and we recommend everybody out there does also. Once you make an adjustment within one of these settings, you simply push the I button to access it, and then you will use the plus and minus to change the number. And then once you have decided on your setting, you will push the I button again to lock that setting in. Next up, we have screen brightness. Like I said, that is turned all the way up, 1 to 5. After brightness, we have voltage. You'll go in here and you can actually change the voltage that the bike is set to read, whether it be 36, 48, or 52. We're gonna leave that on 52. However, when you're done and you push information, here's where you can change how the bar actually goes down. So if you're using the bar graph for battery, these levels 1 through 5 state how much voltage is left in the battery, depending on how many bars it's showing. Now, if you have the percentage, you don't really need that, but it's just kind of again, one of those customizability features that this display has. Now we're gonna go into the advanced settings. quick caveat before we get in here, there are some settings in here that you can mess with the sensor on the bike. It is a cadence sensor, so just be a little mindful with some of the settings that you are adjusting in here. The first one is going to be speed sensor and assist number, and both those numbers have to do with the actual magnet reading on the bike. We don't recommend changing those. Then we have power set. Now this is a pretty cool adjustment feature as well. It allows you to set how many levels of pedal assist the Magicycle Deer has. You can adjust it more to your liking. It comes set from the factory with 0 to 7, or set at 0 to 7, but you can adjust that to 1 to 5, 0 to 5, 1 to 3, 0 to 3, 1 to 9, or 0 to 9. Or 1 to 7 as well. We're gonna leave it on 0 to 7. Now, that's not the only thing you can adjust. Once you pick your number of pedal assist levels, here's where you can adjust how much throttle percentage you were actually given via which pedal assist level you were in. We're gonna leave these to the factory settings, but if you wanted to make a bike that on pedal assist level 1 and 2 was more approachable, you could change the percentage, drop it down even lower. Again, the amount of customizability within this display is pretty awesome. We're gonna go ahead and cycle through all these, get back out. There we go. That screen wipe there per se states that the setting was saved. Next, we have current limit. This is the current limit of the controller, not something we recommend you adjust with. Sensitivity. This is the sensitivity of the actual sensor with how many pedal strokes or how many magnets the magnet will have to pass. You can set this to being a little bit lower or more sensitive. I'm going to leave this to 2. Here, slow start. This is where you can change how powerful the motor comes on. You can make the bike a lot more approachable. All of this is also detailed in the Magicycle Deer instructions. Recommend referencing those if you want maybe a little bit of an explanation and maybe a little bit of guidance if you're adjusting these yourself. We're going to leave that at 0. Here's state of charge voltage. Here's where you can change it from percentage to an actual voltage number. Some people prefer voltage over percentage. We're just going to leave it how it's set. Set pace. This is actually for a cruise control. So the way the cruise control would work if you have it on is you hold the throttle in place at a steady amount of input for 8 seconds and the bike will kind of hold you there. To deactivate the cruise control, you pull the brake lever, pedal, or touch the throttle again and that will deactivate it. We will have a section in our riding footage where I'll show you that activated. For right now, we're gonna go ahead and leave that off. Here's where you would set your clock. We're gonna go ahead and leave the clock where it was set at. And once you get to the bottom here after clock, you simply push the information button over back and that'll take you back to this screen. There's still a couple more settings under here. We have dormancy, which is how long the bike will stay on before it powers itself off without any riding. It comes set from the factory at 5 minutes. Then you have units of measure, so you could change between kilometers an hour or miles per hour. It's actually listed as metric and imperial. Since we're in the States, we're gonna leave this at imperial. Next up, we have password. This is the power on password. So since this bike doesn't have an ignition, it has keys for removing the battery, but they are not needed to start the bike. So you can set a power on password. We're gonna go ahead and leave this off, but it's a nice feature. We're starting to see this come on a lot more displays. And what that means is when you power the bike on with the controls over here, you'll be prompted to put in a password before it allows you access to actually use the e-bike. Again, the actual instructions for the Magicycle Deer have all of this information listed in them. So if you need to know what the default password is or anything like that, that is where it's going to be found. Here you have a factory reset where you could actually reset the settings to factory. Then you can go into display where you could actually reset the trip odometer. We're going to go ahead and leave it where it was at. And then down to the bottom here, you have exit. Takes you back to the main display. Again, a fairly robust display, but it is an LCD color display, so just something to be mindful of. There are some pluses and minuses of these types of display. The adjustability and customizability are definitely one of them. Another thing we see on a lot of these LCD color displays is on the bottom here, tucked nicely, there's a USB charging port. This will allow you to charge your phone or some other device while you're riding, and it just simply runs off the power of the bike. It's a nice feature, especially if you have your phone mounted up here, you just need a short cord, and you could power your phone while you're riding. Then before we move out of the cockpit, here's a look at these really nice swept-back handlebars. It's gonna be kind of hard to see on camera that they put you in a very upright riding position. Be sure to pay attention to the third-person riding footage. It might show up pretty well there. But they have a little bit of a rise and a swoop back. But what the rise allows you to do is you simply adjust the bolts on the front of the stem and you can actually angle the cockpit away or towards you, depending on how much room you need for, say, pedaling, or if you need your wrists or arms at a different angle. Another way to adjust that, you could add a adjustable stem here if you needed even some more adjustment. But it's nice to see these handlebars included nonetheless. Working our way down, here's a look at this really sleek down tube. The battery is mounted on the lower side here. I'm gonna pull that out towards the end of this walk around. 52 volt Magic power there. You have this nice black graphic painted on the top. And then on the side here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, it says Magicycle, and on the gray, and the gray kind of runs all the way around here with some black accents in random places. And as we work our way down here, you'll look at this massive, large bracketry. This is a fairly robust piece of metal, but tucked in here nicely, you'll see the rear shock, which has some adjustment up here. Not going to be easily adjusted, as I don't think Magicycle intends for you to be able to adjust the rear suspension. But if you are either a heavier rider or ride on some very bumpy terrain, you could simply pull out these bolts and remove the shock and get that adjustment. With that, we should talk about the capacity. So this bike has a rated weight capacity of 400 pounds. That's a pretty robust weight, especially looking at this lower bracket and this reinforced seat tube here. I believe that, as well as the bike comes in with a weight of 93 pounds. So it is a heavy bike. So we think that large construction, big battery and everything really bring up that weight. So just something to keep in mind if you are gonna have to transport this bike, you will need a stronger rack than normal. Here you notice some of those suspension hookup points down here. And this is where the shock mounts here. And like I said, these bolts here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give that suspension a little push for you. I don't know if I called it before, but there is a lockout knob on the right-hand side, which has a couple clicks in it. So you could stiffen it up just by hitting a couple of those clicks, take some of that, or you could completely lock it out by twisting it all the way to the right. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it all the way open so it's as plush and comfortable as possible. And then on the other side, it is just a dummy knob. So just the knob on the right side does your adjustments of lockout. And the rear suspension, like I said, not adjustable. So let's go ahead and hear some, yeah, it's a nice springy front fork. Let's go ahead and sit on here. And yeah, you can feel the rear end is definitely showing some compliance and giving you some give there, which will be nice over some of the bumps. Now, one thing to note about it though, is that like I said a little bit, you can see the actual spanner rings on the inside to adjust it. So if you find that it's maybe too soft because you're a heavier rider and you're also mechanically inclined, you might be able to get that shock out of there so that you could adjust it. But the way it is set up now, straight out of the box, it is not adjustable. And here we have a look at our metal Wellgo pedals. Very standard pedals you see come on a lot of e-bikes. They're perfectly adequate. They even have some pegs on them. What we always recommend though is on our accessories list, we have some with maybe some larger pegs, or if you're gonna be doing some street riding, we have ones that have some lights in them that we recommend on that page. Down here on this lower chainstay bar, we have magicyclebike.com. Here's a look at the hydraulic rear brake lever and 180 millimeter rear disc also. And then you will also notice that the pedals do not come in contact with the kickstand. It's a fairly small kickstand. It is nicely tucked out of the way, so you don't have to worry about hitting it with your pedals when you're pushing the bike around. And also worth pointing out, two things back here is gonna be, this is a really nice torque arm, so it's gonna stop this nut from being able to loosen or fall out if the motor is putting out extra power, which that 52 volt system we believe is capable of. And also notice the wiring comes out between the rotor and rear frame mount here. So it just allows the motor wires to be tucked up nicely and kind of disappear into the frame. Puts a little bit nicer of a clean look here in the rear. Before we talk about the rear rack, we have to call out the plastic rear fender. Thankfully that comes pre-installed, so you do not have to mess with any of the bolts for that, but it is nicely tucked underneath this rear rack. Let's talk about the rack. So this strap here does come pre-included, which is kind of nice. It just adds some elastic straps here, allows you to really maybe hold some cargo on there. Up here on the top, you'll notice the weight capacity is listed as 25 kilograms. We'll put what it converts to on the screen now. I believe that's in the 50-ish pound range. It's a fairly burly rear rack. It looks like you have some pannier bars mounted here on the side, and it mounts to the frame there and there, bolts on. So if you needed to remove it for any reason or upgrade it, you could. And then tucked in here nicely under the frame, you notice we have this rear light. This is a brake actuated rear light, which is always nice to see, a little nod to safety. Let me go ahead and turn the bike on and show you what that looks like. So here it is off. Here it is when you pull the brakes, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn the headlights on. And it does have like a little daytime running light function there. It's gonna be pretty dim. Like I said, we're in direct sunlight. And then here's what it looks like when you pull the brake lever with the daytime running lights on. Not something we see included on all e-bikes, but it is always nice to see it included. Moving around, now we get to talk about the fun stuff, the motor and drivetrain. Let's start with the drivetrain. So the derailleur on this bike is a Shimano Altus rear derailleur. It does have a derailleur guard. Make sure if you're having any shifting issues out of the box that this is not bent in. They get damaged or bent in shipping fairly frequently. Doesn't allow the derailleur to fully actuate through the gears. But we have a Shimano Altus rear derailleur. It's a pretty standard derailleur. It's on the lower end of the Shimano components, but we found it to be perfectly adequate. You have a barrel adjuster in here if you do have any shifting issues and it's not the derailleur hanger. We have a matching torque arm. Tucked in nicely behind the rear chainstays there, we have a Shimano rear freewheel. This is a 14 to 28 tooth rear freewheel. Pretty standard freewheel. We always wish we saw an 11 to 28, but Magicycle thought about that, and what they decided to do was up here in the front, they put on a 53 tooth front chainring. It's a very large front chainring, something we don't typically see. Most people just upgrade or change out the rear freewheel. They don't tend to put on a larger chainring. So that should allow you to help fight some of that ghost pedaling. At least that's what their website claims. We will be sure to put that to the test in our first person riding footage. You notice we have a single-sided metal chainring. Should help you from getting your pants or anything stuck in there, as well as a matching metal Wellgo pedal. But let's get back to what we skipped over, which is going to be the motor. This is a 52 volt, 750 watt nominal, 1100 watt peak motor that is listed on the website as being capable of outputting 96 Newton meters of torque. That's quite a bit higher than some other e-bikes that we've ridden. And I'm really excited to see what this motor is capable of up our hill climb test. Be sure to stay tuned to that footage. It's coming up shortly. Here's a look at the rear shock again, kind of tucked in there nicely in the frame. And then this really robust reinforced seat tube. And then here's a look at the really soft seat. I do have to agree the seat does seem very soft. I don't have any complaints from the riding that I did do on this e-bike, but if you're looking for maybe something that has a little bit more support or is a little bit larger, be sure to reference our e-bike accessories list. We kind of have a list going on there of a lot of the seats that we see commonly purchased and recommended on a lot of different areas. Let me go ahead and get you guys set up on a stand and I'll pull that battery out for you. All right, before we get to the first person riding footage and hill climb test on the Magicycle Deer, we're gonna go ahead and pull out the battery and give you all the specs. So on the passenger side here, you'll notice this rubber plug. This gives you access to the charging port on the battery. Battery can be charged on or off the bike. The keys are not needed to power the bike on. They are only needed to pull the battery out of the bike. Once you have the keys, you insert them in and you twist them towards the back of the bike. Since the battery is mounted on the underside here, when you release and twist the keys, the battery will fall down and kind of catch on this little metal latch. And then on the underside here, this is this little knob, and you can push that either to the right or left to depress that, and that allows the battery to come out. You will want to bring the battery as far down as you can and then simply pick the battery up. There's a little bit of a nub down here on the bottom, which is kind of what the battery will pivot in and out on. That's also what you'll need to make sure the battery pivots on to get back in. So here's a look at the specs on the side of the battery. This says a 52 volt, 20 amp hour battery with 1040 watt hours. That is a fairly large battery, especially being it's a 52 volt battery, means it's even bigger than some of the 48 volt, 20 amp hour batteries we see. The range for this battery is claimed to be 60 to 80 miles. If you are not using a lot of throttle, that is a reasonable number. On some other e-bikes with 20 amp hour batteries, we've been capable of getting in the 60 to 65 miles of range, and we live in some pretty hilly terrain area. Not as much as some, but definitely some hills here. Like I said before, the battery can be charged on or off the bike. The Magicycle Deer comes with a 3 amp charger, which is 1 amp larger than what we see other bikes come with, but being that's a 52 volt and 20 amp hours, that's nice to see. And the charger also has an included fan, so that's gonna allow it to stay a little bit cooler, especially when it's charging up to 52 volts. Before I put the battery back in, here's a look at that knob that I simply push right or left and it depresses the metal on the top. Now, to put the battery back in, it's a little bit more challenging than some, especially when the battery's not coming out on the top. You have to fight with room with the wheel. Sometimes we found that you can actually twist the wheel and get a little bit more room. However, on this bike, I found that it's best to leave the wheel straight and you kind of tuck the battery in right up here under the fork. It's almost like this battery was perfectly formed for this area. Put that bottom notch in, like I said before, and then you simply just slide it up into the frame, and now it is locked into place. The keys can be pulled out, and also what we recommend is giving it a little bit of a tug to make sure it doesn't accidentally fall out while riding. That pretty much wraps up all of the up-close details of the Magicycle Deer. Let's go ahead and throw it to our neighborhood, and we'll show you what the Magicycle Deer is like to pedal. All right, here we are at the first-person riding footage section of the Magicycle Deer review. What we're gonna do is try and show you how this bike is to pedal, how the gearing relates to it, and really kind of just show you what this bike is capable of in a pedaling environment. I don't believe you're gonna be able to see this display on the right as it is not the right angle, but hopefully you'll be able to see my screen over here on the left. I'll be sure to call out any discrepancies between the speed, as well as I'll call out the wattage as we go through. To start out, first thing I'm gonna do is jump on, and I'm going to do the throttle only test. So whether you are in pedal assist level 0 or all the way up to 7, you get full access to the throttle. So that means you're gonna be going at whatever speed the bike is capable of. So here we are. It shows we're pulling about 900 watts, 22 miles an hour. Display shows 25, 26, there we go. They're like 1 mile an hour apart here. So it looks like about 25, 26 miles an hour here. 27, 28. There we go, 27. Yeah, so there we go, 28 miles an hour.
And yep, that looks like, so it is about 20, it is capable of 28 miles an hour. Now we are at about 70% voltage in the battery. So if you were at 100%, you might have a little bit more top end there. But man, this 52 volt motor was able to carry me, a 225 pound rider, up to that speed, no problem. Let's go ahead and shift down to pedal assist level 1. I'm also going to shift down into gear 1 on the right hand side. We'll go ahead and slow down now. We'll just kind of get going from a little bit of a start and just see. So here we go. Felt a little bit of motor wattage there kick on. And I am in 1, providing a decent amount of effort. It looks like we're at 5-6 miles an hour. So that's, yeah, pretty easy. I'm putting in a decent amount of effort. If I slowed down my cadence, it would be a little difficult. That front 53 tooth front chain ring is making me put in just a little bit more effort at these slower speeds. But if you say jump it up to pedal assist level 2, doesn't matter anymore. So pedal assist level 1, and remember, you can adjust the power output in these various pedal assist levels if you needed to. So here we are, pedal assist level 2, going about 8 miles an hour in gear 1. And this feels pretty comfortable too. I mean, this for gear 1 over here. Here we go, 9 miles an hour. Now I'm assuming once we kick up to pedal assist level 3, there we go. Felt more power kick on immediately. I almost immediately feel the need to upshift into second, third on the shifter, probably fourth, man, almost, yeah, maybe right about here, fourth. It's a little bit of a hill here coming up, but about fourth there to get me going. Looks like we're going about 12 to 13 miles an hour. And nice, easy cadence, getting me there, no problem. So yeah, 12, 13 miles an hour, pedal assist level 3. Kick it again, pedal assist level 4, felt the motor kick on again. Immediately almost ghost pedaling again. Gear 5, gear 6, and we'll try pedaling again once we get around this turn. All right, here we go. There we go. Again, providing a very easy cadence. Gear 6 over here, nothing. 7, borderline ghost pedaling here in pedal assist level 4. So this bike is going to be very capable of high speeds, but you're only going to be able to provide so much power up to, looks like 19, 20 miles an hour. This is in pedal assist level 4, gear 7. Go ahead and kick up here. At this point, I'm just going to be spinning my legs to keep the cadence sensor activated. I don't think I'm really going to be providing any of my own power. Immediately shifting up to pedal assist level 5. We get up to about 24 miles an hour there. So here, we're going to go down a little bit of a hill, and then it's a little bit of an uphill. But we should be able to see what pedal assist level 5 is going to provide power-wise. So here, nice, easy cadence. Again, really just activating the sensor. 23. 22. A little bit of an uphill. 23. Looks like 22, 23 in pedal assist level 5. Kick it up to 6. I felt a little bit more power actually come on there. Get around this turn. There we are. There we go. Again, just kind of spinning my legs to get going here. And we are 23, 24, 25 miles an hour. And I am, again, spinning my legs to keep the cadence sensor going. 28 is what the display shows. 27, kick it up to pedal assist level 7. I think we might have been getting max amount of wattage there, but let's see. 28. Yeah, so about 28 miles an hour. 28, 29, there we go. Let's see, let me kick it up here. 8, 29, 30. Little oomph there, yep, 29 to 30 miles an hour there. I was providing a good amount of pedal effort there to get going, but that motor was providing power all the way up to that. So this 52 volt system is very capable and very, very impressive. All right, with that out of the way, there is one other thing we got to show you, what this dual suspension feels like. Here we go, a little bit of bumpy off-road here. Yeah, and you just kind of take the bumps. Man, the rear suspension is working. It's absorbing the suspension. Again, depending on your weight, since it is not adjustable, it may absorb more or less depending on what your weight is. But for me, felt pretty comfortable. That front suspension is definitely working as well. So yeah, it's a nice combination here. Before we go to the hill climb test, I just want to show everybody the throttle. So in order to activate the throttle, you have to turn it on in the advanced settings. But up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice this little green cruise control symbol there. And the way you activate it is you hold your throttle there for about 8 seconds. And once you held it there, now you can let go. So it's going to hold me at the speed of about 15 miles an hour, 16 miles an hour. Pretty nice, easy speed. It's a nice feature. Sometimes your hand will get a little tired from keeping that throttle twisted. Allows you to maybe get in a more comfortable position. And you can just kind of cruise there. How you turn that off quickly is you can either pull the brakes, pull one of the brakes, trip the motor sensor, start pedaling, or hit the throttle again. So the way I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna hit the throttle again, let go, and the bike immediately is gonna deactivate that cruise control and start slowing down. So let's go ahead and give it that throttle again, kind of keep us there at a nice, comfortable speed here, say 13 miles an hour, 13, 14 miles an hour here. Now I wish there was some sort of acknowledgement as to when that cruise control kicked on, but it is still a nice feature nonetheless to have on an e-bike. And one other thing before we throw it to the first person hill climbing footage, let's go ahead and talk about what this bike is like to pedal without power. Say you have a dead battery. How is this bike gonna pedal? Well, for starters, we're gonna have to shift down. I'm gonna go down to 2 here. And I'm thinking, yeah, 9 to 10 miles an hour. This is a pretty easy cadence. 2 big things we gotta point out. Hills, gonna be a pain because you're gonna have essentially dead weight from a dead battery that you're gonna have to carry up a hill, and it's gonna take quite a bit of effort. I almost had to shift down to 1 here for the 7, 8 miles an hour. And I'm providing a decent amount of effort here through my legs. And with the hills, we have to point out the weight. This bike comes in weighing around 93 pounds. That is a heavy bike. That's gonna take quite a bit of effort to keep going. So is it capable of pedaling like a regular bike? Yes. Is it gonna have the best characteristics, such as manners when you're on the road as a bike? No, but it is gonna be able to be pedaled. So it is something to keep in mind that it could be done if you need to, but not something we would recommend, as hills and just general pedaling is going to be not fun. But hopefully with that 20 amp hour battery, you're not gonna be doing a lot of your own pedaling from a dead battery. All right, let's go ahead and throw it to our hill climb footage. All right, here we are at the hill climb portion of the Magicycle Deer test. The way this test part is gonna work, first time I'm gonna go up on throttle power load and see if the bike is capable of making it up. Spoiler, I think the 52 volt system is gonna make it no problem. Then I will turn around, come back down, give the brakes a good test on the way back down, let you know how that feels after I get down to the bottom. And then I will go up in the various pedal assist levels, just to kind of show you what the bike would be like if you were gonna be pedaling it up a hill, as this is a bicycle after all. So to start out, like I said, we're on throttle alone. I will give myself a lot of throttle, jump up onto the seats. Now, this bike, you do have full access to the throttle, whether you are in pedal assist level 0 or 7, but I have it turned up to 7 anyway. Like the riding portion before, you're probably not gonna be able to see the display down here, but you should hopefully be able to see my GPS on the side. I will call out if the speeds are off when we're riding up the hill as well. Right now, wattage wise, looks like we're putting about 900 watts. We're doing about 22 miles an hour. It's pretty good. So the hill specs we will put on the screen, and this hill is a little bit steeper than it appears. It's not as steep as some other hills in our area, but gives you a good idea. The hill really starts back there at the bridge. It's a modular hill, and then it really kicks up, probably starting right about now, to a much steeper hill. I am a 225 pound rider, so it's gonna be it's gonna show you how capable these bikes are making it up, as I am not a light rider. Here we go, speed's dropping about 15. Still pulling out that 900 watts, throttle alone again, no pedaling. 14 miles an hour here. That almost feels like it might be our minimum. Maybe it's dropping a little bit more, maybe 13. Yep, maybe even 12. Yeah, there we go. And the hill's gonna start to taper off here. 11, okay, so it's still continuing to drop a little bit, but it feels like it's gonna hold right about there at 11, 12. That's pretty capable. Again, this is a 1100 watt peaking 52 volt system motor. All right, let's go ahead and flip her back around, and we will come back up the hill while pedaling. All right, here we are back at the bottom of the hill. If you'll notice on my screen here, you'll be able to see 30 miles an hour. That's the max speed I got coming down the hill, and I was able to get locked up on those brakes, got the rear tires screeching, and got the front to slow down, got them all nice and hot. No problems out of these brakes. They were capable of slowing this bike down, no problem. All right, this is gonna be the part I'm gonna go up while pedaling. There are 7 levels of pedal assist, so I may run through them a little quickly, but I will try and give you my feeling once the hill starts in each pedal assist level. So give myself a little throttle to start out here. Gonna downshift all the way to first here. And I'm actually just gonna give myself a little bit of throttle here to get to where those 2 yellow signs are there for the bridge, because the hill really starts right about there. That's the low point for a creek. There we go, getting up to it. Man, this bike, it's a very nice bike. That rear suspension, it may be tucked in there, but every bump you hit, you are reminded that it is there. All right, slowing myself down here. Let's go ahead. Here we go. And now we're gonna shift down to first gear. And here we are, pedal assist level 1. I'm putting in quite a bit of effort here. Pedal assist level 1 with a little bit of hill. There's a lot of tension on the pedals. And then we're going about 5-6 miles an hour there. So at this point, I would definitely kick up pedal assist level. Level 2 felt a little bit more power. You remember, you can tune how much power you're getting in each pedal assist level. So I think we're now at about 30%. I don't remember past this, so I'm not gonna quote those percentages anymore. But here we are, 1 on the shifter, pedal assist level 2. And yeah, I could probably go up to pedal assist level 2 there, or shift up to 2 here on the right-hand side for pedal assist level 2. And this is probably about the point I'd shift up pedal assist level 3. Again, feel more power kick on, and shift up to 3rd, maybe even 4th here. All right, hill does level out a bit there, so gives you a little bit false hope there. Let's go up to 4th there. Again, feel the motor kick up. Now go up to 5th, 6th on the shifter, maybe even 7. And now the hill's getting ready to start again. We'll see where we land with how this feels pedaling wise. Again, pedal assist level 4 only, and I am in 7th on the shifter. I'm barely providing a lot of power here with my legs, and the bike's carrying me up no problem. We're not even getting any more speed drop. We're just holding straight at 14. I'm gonna go ahead and shift up again. Pedal assist level 5. Didn't feel any more power kick in, but I'm in 7th, and I would maybe go down to 6th or 5th. 6th, 7th. I felt no more torque or power come out of the motor, and I watched the wattage meter. It was pegged at about 900 watts. Looks like our minimum speed, 11, 12 miles an hour, and I was doing a lot of talking. You notice I'm not out of breath, and the bike made it up that no problem. Really, pedal assist level 4 is where I felt like I was getting enough power to carry me up the hill without an issue. That bike was able to get us up that hill no problem. So that pretty much wraps up all of the riding parts of the Magicycle Deer. Go throw it to some third-person riding footage, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on this full suspension e-bike.
Magicycle is a brand that impressed us with their Cruiser and Cruiser Pro models. So when they reached out offering us their dual suspension SUV e-bike that features a very similar 52-volt system as the Cruiser models, I was happy to oblige. The Deer 20-inch is not priced at the entry level of e-bikes. It comes in at $24.99, and that is regardless of which wheel size or color you pick. Though we do have a special discount code for our viewers to knock $200 off that price. Check the description for that. It's nice to see an e-bike offered with multiple wheel size options. The smaller 20-inch wheels allow the Deer to accommodate riders on the lower end of the height range, all the way down to 4'10". And as a nice bonus, it's easier to handle a smaller, lower center of gravity heavy e-bike. The options for the Deer don't stop just at the wheel sizes though. There's option to pick between 2 different frame sizes and up to 4 different colors, making the Deer a bit more personal to your choice. My personal favorite still has to be the neon green. The uniqueness of a full suspension step-through cannot be understated here. We know we've seen quite a few comments from people asking for just this combination. The Magicycle Deer sports a powerful 52-volt, 750-watt motor that peaks in the neighborhood of 1100 watts. The 52-volt system allows a bit more acceleration and torque than what we typically see, and that was very evident to me when I was able to quickly accelerate to that top speed of about 30 miles per hour. The 20 amp hour battery is also a great addition here. In our previous testing, we've been able to reach the range of about 60 miles on a 20 amp hour battery, meaning that the claimed 80 miles of range from Magicycle is actually a very realistic number, provided that you can tame the wrist on the throttle a little bit. With a range potentially that large, you'll be happy to hear that the comfort has also been thought about. First, the not so obvious choices, the seat. It was noticeably softer than what we typically see. Pair that with the swept back raised handlebars that should really allow you to dial in the cockpit, and the more obvious comfort items here, the dual suspension. The front adjustable hydraulic front fork and rear spring shock work great together and handled my riding style and terrain very nicely. But given that not all riders weigh the same or ride on the same terrain, I do wish that it was quicker and or easier to adjust the rear suspension. The biggest item in the way when it comes to adjusting that rear suspension is the massive piece of metal that ties the frames together. The overall robust appearance of the frame and feel cannot be understated here. It looks and feels heavy duty. One drawback of that, and something that needs to be considered, is the weight. The Deer 20-inch crosses the scales at 85 pounds and goes up from there depending on which wheel size you pick. Keep that in mind if you're thinking about hauling this bike around on a rear bike rack. Along with the 52-volt electrical system, Magicycle is also known to us for having very colorful LCD displays that offer a lot of end-user adjustment. The ability to dial in the number of pedal assist levels and how much power you get in each pedal assist level is a great creature comfort. But the negative of a color LCD display, this one included, is their difficulty to get bright enough to be seen in direct sunlight. So be mindful that there is a trade-off between a colorful LCD display and a more utilitarian style monochrome one. One shortcoming of the Deer has to be the gearing. Magicycle used the standard 14 to 28 tooth rear gearing, but used a slightly larger 53 tooth front chainring to try and counteract ghost pedaling. However, due to the overall power this e-bike is capable of providing, I still found myself ghost pedaling starting right around 20 miles per hour. I do know most people don't want to pedal at 20 plus miles per hour, but I prefer the ability to provide power all the way up into those higher speeds that the e-bikes are capable of. The Magicycle Deer is a robustly featured full suspension e-bike that scratches the itch for people looking for a bit more power and style. With a bit more budget to work with, if you are an avid gravel path user or have some bumpy terrain, or maybe you just want a more luxurious ride, the Magicycle Deer is worth looking into. If we helped you decide on the Magicycle Deer, please consider using our links in the description. We'll also have our $200 coupon listed down there as well. All purchases made after clicking any of those links help us fund our churro addiction. Thank you in advance for that. What do you all think of the Magicycle Deer? Is a full suspension 20 amp hour battery the new standard for e-bikes in 2023? Do you think it's worth the extra cost? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and remember to ride safe out there, and I'll catch you all in the next one.